Hello, this is Ingrid Auer. I am from Austria, from Europe. I am a spiritual teacher. I have written several books about angels, ascended masters, and so on. And many of you know me and my spiritual tools, my angel symbols, my angel essences, my angel sprays. But today I won't speak about my work because I have a very, very nice guest to introduce to you. This is Monika Muranyis from Australia. Hello, Monika. So nice to be connected with you.
Hello, Ingrid. I'm so excited to be here. And equally, I want to extend my love and warmth and excitement to those of you who are tuning in to listen to us. Thank you so much. It means a lot to us that you are here with us.
Yeah. So Monika and I have met several times on different places at really nice Cryon events with Lee Carroll. And she's very well known as an author, and she writes spiritual books with messages from Cryon, channeled from Lee Carroll, or by Lee Carroll, of course. So I know many people who love your books, Monika, because they are also translated into German, my mother language. I know many people who read your books in Spanish, of course, in your own language, in English. So I'm really excited to have some questions, to ask you some questions, because, you know, if you read the books of the channeled messages, and I know you personally, but to know more about you and how you came up to Lee Carroll and how you found Cryon. But first, I would like to ask you about your life or your period of life when you have been in Australia. So you have been working, let's say, for Gaia and with Gaia. Would you like to tell?
Sure, I would love to, because it's still with me, that whole experience. I was very much drawn to working with animals, with nature. And so I ended up becoming a park ranger in the national parks and worked for nearly 15 years or so through Australia and New Zealand as well. And I always thought that I was never really working. It was expression of my passion. And so I was very blessed to be in this environment. Many times I would be outdoors. That was my office, just walking through and being in that environment. But I wasn't spiritual. But when I look back, I can see that when you're connected to nature, you're connected to your spirituality, whether you're aware of it or not.
Yeah.
And so this was my ideal heaven, to just be outdoors. And I loved the research component as well. So I've always been an avid researcher, where I have looked for systems and connecting the dots. And I did this in my work as a ranger as well. So researching and compiling information has always been part of what makes me happy and drives my creativity.
So when you met Lee Carroll for the very first time, what did you know about him and his very special job?
Well, we all meet Lee Carroll through the books first. So for me, I met Lee while reading Cryon Book 7. I had moved to New Zealand, and it was really fresh, my spiritual awakening. So within 6 months of learning about this whole other aspect of life, I went to my first yoga class and was given a Cryon book in the yoga class. And I went home and read that book, and all the cells of my body was tingling with remembrance. And that particular book had a chapter from a lady called Peggy Phoenix Dubrow, who had developed the EMF, it's energy work with the energy anatomy. So really it was Peggy's work that I dove into and followed. the Cryon books, it didn't come till much later because I was following the path with Peggy and the energy work.
Mm-hmm.
This led me to South America to do some training with Peggy.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cryon team was there, of course, with Lee Carroll. That's really the first time I met Lee
Mm-hmm.
face to face.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an instant connection there, akashically, between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year he was in Australia and I started taking photographs at the events. And my journey kind of followed this path of being in places synchronistically with the Cryon team and following Peggy's work.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2012, I moved to South America and I started teaching English there just to have a change in life. I was really ready for a change in life. The thing is, I totally sucked at teaching English at the school. So you get thrown these things and then you wonder, what was that about?
Yeah.
But really what that was about was when I quit the job, I had an opening of time and space for myself where I had to think, well, what am I going to do now? What is next? And what was next was the response to a question I had been asking for 2 years, which was, if we have an energy anatomy and it's connected to the earth and to the cosmos, what is the energy anatomy of the earth and how does it connect with us?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been searching for over 2 years to get detailed information about this. And everywhere I looked, it wasn't answering those deep questions. And it wasn't until I really started delving into the Cryon information from Lee Carroll that all my answers were given. And it was so big, so enormous a revelation that I felt I didn't want to, but I had the voice come in and say, you need to present this to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, when I surrendered to the voice of spirit, I contacted Lee and asked about undertaking this work. And his response was incredibly supportive and encouraging, asking me to not only do the book, but to focus on all aspects of Gaia and to ask questions to Cryon. So I basically had the green light to do this as directed from spirit. And that was what I commenced doing. So very soon we had the Gaia effect, which is beautiful information of what Cryon gives us about how humanity is intrinsically connected and in partnership with our planet. So all of a sudden, here I was, a ranger, seeing all these environmental problems and really feeling that if we could get rid of the humans, we would have solved most of the environmental problems. So imagine my surprise when I discover from Cryon that Gaia is here for us, for human setup, for our test of consciousness about whether we can find the God inside and how it's connected to the oneness of everything. And if we weren't here, the consciousness of Gaia and the planet Earth would not be here. So that completely transformed my way of viewing the world and recognizing that we have the solutions of the environmental problems. It's going to come through a higher consciousness. And when we reach that point, we are going to start seeing those solutions emerge.
So if there would be someone in our audience who has never heard about Cryon, who would you explain Cryon?
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure, because it's a very common question to those who are new to the Cryon work or they hear the name Cryon. So Cryon can be described as a very loving, benevolent, angelic entity. And it's more of a group. We tend to singularize things and have it as a single voice of spirit coming through somebody. But Cryon is a group which is genderless because it's directly from the creative source. And so this loving, benevolent entity delivers profound messages through individuals on the planet. The very first individual to experience Cryon was Lee Carroll in 1989. Subsequently, there have been other channels for Cryon because spirit is not proprietary. Other people have access to that same source of spirit. However, Lee Carroll has been the original from 1989, and a career that now spans over 25 years, he's becoming incredibly attuned with Cryon and the information and the messages. So for anyone that has been wondering about Cryon, there is a lot of free information available on the internet, on YouTube, listening to the channels. And for a lot of people, as for myself, when there is a message that comes from truth, deep truth, it resonates with you, and there is a beauty. So there's so many messages on the planet, not just through Cryon. And you as an individual just need to discern, is it empowering? Does it uplift you? Is it positive messages? Is it messages for everyone, or is it just a select group? So if you start using these guidelines to discern whether it's truthful information, you'll very, very quickly can identify whether it is a message given in love, wisdom, and truth or not. And then the most joyful thing I think about the Cryon's messaging is applying it into your life. That's what it's about. It's about enhancing your life, bringing out more joy, bringing out more compassion and love. Otherwise, what's the point? There is no point to all of it if it can't improve your life and for those you love around you.
I know Lee's book since the early 1990s. At this time, there haven't been books, just like a journal translated into my mother language, German. And I remember when I read the first books, a part of myself said, continue, go on. And the other one said, oh, are you crazy? Are you silly? What is this? And the other one said, go on. I really felt attracted, but my mind didn't realize what it is, but I could feel when I took the book and I opened the book, the energy. And now while we are speaking, I also can feel the energy of Cryon. It was amazing. For me, it was like coming home. It was really like coming home. And the last few years, I haven't read any spiritual book except Cryon's book, because this is, for me, like a battery. When I don't feel very well, if I'm all like this, I take his books, or I read, or I hear the audios. And when he starts, greetings dear ones, I'm Cryon, wow, this is like charging a battery, and this is like, yes, family. And I really do appreciate the book. I'm really happy that I found these books 20 years ago, because they supported me on my personal way. And 20 years ago, I also had a big change in my life from a normal person to a spiritual, awoken person. So what I would like to ask you also for our audience, there are many books, there are many channelings. I think there is a lot of unpublished stuff. How do you work? How do you start? How can we imagine how you are working on a new book of Cryon? How does it work?
I'm going to explain it in a way that it's going to apply to every single one listening and to yourself. How do we do it? How does one begin? How does one start? What do we do now? These are all questions you're asking yourself, because really you're guiding yourself through life and you're navigating your personal challenges and everything that you do. So for me, it is about synchronicity and following the energy. So those are the compass navigation points of decision making and how you move forward. In anything you've done in life, whatever decisions you've made, whether it's buying a house or a car or deciding on to take the new job or what book you're going to write, the first things you think about is the synchronicity, following the energy, what feels right. And then you're pulling in all of your abilities that you have, which includes the logic, which includes the wisdom, which includes the knowledge, and you combine that with your intuition, with your innate intelligence. And so I've done much research previously. When I was working as a ranger, I was also a university graduate with honours, where I did a scientific program, and I've written publications for scientific journals. So I have that inquiring mind of research, analysis, and compiling. So I simply followed that with the energy and the books. So I went into, and I trusted that what I needed would turn up. If you start thinking about the task as a whole, it becomes so overwhelming that you can't even begin to start. You become paralyzed with fear, with doubts. And so you need to just break it down into small steps of, what can I do now? What in this moment can my decision be? Because our whole life is strung up with a series of moment to moment to moment to moment decision making. And so this would be how I would start. What is it that I would do today? And literally as time progressed and I started working on the other books, the Akash, it would just open my computer and, okay, Spirit, what am I to write today? And sometimes I would have a plan in my head. The plan would go away when the screen opened, and something would be, and so I would receive an email from someone sharing a video of this amazing singer that they claim came straight from the Akash, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be past lives today. That's what I'm going to be working on. So I think that's basically how I've undertaken most of my projects, and then allowing that synchronicity and energy. And sometimes we can get frustrated with ourselves because our timing, it is not the timing of Spirit. And this is where we need to still remain in patience.
So you're
And the one other thing is, if we can embrace the inner child to have fun and let the joy come, that's when we're going to get inspiration. But when we're kind of in that serious mode and we're locked down and, oh gosh, what's the next, and you really want to do a good job and you're so focused and you're so dedicated, sometimes that energy actually blocks intuition and other things coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So your second book was the Human Akash. Would you like to tell some what's the focus, or what's the main message?
I almost feel this is one of the favorite books because it's personal. Akash, for those who don't understand what the Akash is, Cryon has described it as the energy of all of your past, present, and future lives to come as a record. And every lifetime you have lived, you have recorded the energies of that lifetime. And that's why when we say there's an old soul, that old soul has lived many, many expressions of life on the planet. And they're the ones that are most likely to be listening to this. They're the ones that are most likely to be awakening to a bigger truth and to the God inside. And they literally have deep wisdom. It's not about the chronological age. This is why someone who is a young 6-year-old can come out with some profound wisdom, even coaching the parents as the parents go through divorce, because they have a Akash that is rich in experience, wisdom, and knowledge. So writing this book was really a pleasure because we get more insights about our personal stuff You know, things that happen to you personally, your life lessons, what is your karmic connection with the family group, all of those talents and hidden abilities within your Akash. There's fears and phobias all within the Akash. So there's a lot of detailed information from Cryon that really helps not just with yourself, but understanding relationships with others.
Yeah, relationships and how you are and why you're here and all the connections. Yeah.
Yes.
Your third book is about the soul, the human soul.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you explain a little bit?
Yes, I would love to. And this was challenging. Like I said to you before about the process, I was given a 3-book deal with my publisher, which is unheard of in publishing. But when they saw the manuscripts for Gaia and Akash, they signed me up for a trilogy. And I thought, great. But what's the 3rd book? I literally had no idea. And it was so frustrating because I was ready to go and wanting to do it. And it was not ready. It was not ready. It was not ready. And then we had a year where Cryon began giving very profound information about the 9 attributes of the human soul. And this was incredible information about the totality of your soul, which we don't really, as humans, get the full idea of, because it's all information that comes from the other side of the veil. But here we have Cryon, who's never been a human, giving us the 9 attributes of a human soul. And it focused on basically 3 groups of 3 to try and explain it. And as soon as that information came out, I knew, that 3rd book needs to describe the human soul. And the whole trilogy works with, we first have us with Gaia. The next book we have us with ourselves in the Akash. And the 3rd book is us with our soul, which is a multi-dimensional energy, very, very difficult to describe. And so this book is very esoteric. It takes you into the realms of what it's like to move from a single linear human being to a quantum multi-dimensional entity, because that's what we all are. We are spiritual beings in a human body. And so it's expanding beyond that to recognize the totality of who you really are, which is what that human soul book describes in a very esoteric way. So to me, it's a beautiful compilation of really advanced information on the soul in a way that's never been described before.
And I'm really, really looking forward to your next book about Lemuria. Oh, I'm curious to learn more about it. Do you know when it will be published?
I am aiming, and this is a sneak peek. I haven't really made too many announcements. There's a few people here and there that know about it, but I'm really excited because it's all it's following synchronicity and the energy, and the timing had to be right for it to evolve. And so this next book is actually a collaboration with Dr. Amber Wolf, who many know through the Cryon channels, the meditations before, and her teachings with Lee Carroll. But Dr. Amber Wolf is the originator of the Lemurian sisterhood. And through the sisterhood, we've been given a lot of profound information from Cryon describing what it was like in Lemuria. Now, if you're just tuning in and you're hearing these women talk about Lemuria and thinking, what on earth is that? This is crazy. Lemuria is described as the original spiritual community for the planet to set the Akash. And they were basically seeded by divine beings coming to the earth that we call the Pleiadians, who are spiritual parents. And they existed on what is now known as Hawaii. So many people relate to Atlantis, but they don't necessarily relate to Lemuria. So there's that confusion. But basically, Atlantis came after Lemuria, but it was many Lemurians that went and created Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when someone says that I do feel that they have a connection to Lemuria. Mm-hmm. And so the next book is going to be focusing on, and the title is The Women of Lemuria.
Wonderful. And
this I'm very excited about, because we have lots of information from Amber Wolf about the Lemurian sisterhood, but it's bigger than that. I want to say it is bigger than that, because we're now looking at the creation story of humanity. And the creation story of humanity, as given by Cryon, is that we were seeded by the Pleiadians to give us divinity. And not just Pleiadians, but the female Pleiadians. Yeah. So our original story is that we had females giving us divinity, and they were the original shamans and teachers of spirituality all over the planet. Mm-hmm. I've been very fortunate to travel all over the world, and I have met with Indigenous all over the world, and many Indigenous have the exact same story of being seeded by the Pleiadians, the females. Mm-hmm. Deep in the heart of Australia, at a place called Uluru, you have the Ananu culture. And I have personally been into a cave where they have the creation story of the Pleiadians, and they've painted on the ceiling the landing of the Pleiadian. Mm-hmm. And they have their stories, the Seven Sisters. And again, it's all about the female energy. And within their culture, it's the females that have the shamanic wisdom and knowledge. So why is that important today? Why am I even bothering writing about the women of Lemuria? The reason is because we are now in a post-2012 environment, which means that there's a new shift and there's a new energy on the planet. Collectively, humanity has decided that we want peace over war, and that has shifted everything. So I invite you to go and check out 2012 and what that means. You can get more information about that, because what I want to tell you is that there is no time like now for us to embrace this shamanic wisdom of the female energy, which is what originally seeded the planet. Mm-hmm. And this energy is about compassionate mother energy. So whenever you feel that energy, this is going to be coming to the fore. This is why we're seeing so many things come out of balance. This is why we're seeing things that have no integrity, that before you could get away with it, but now you can't. Mm-hmm. People are discerning now more than ever before about the energy of compassion, wisdom, and integrity. Mm-hmm. And this is where women, it is our role now to step into that gentle feminine wisdom that is within, and demonstrate it by being balanced, by having the wisdom, by having compassion to all those around you, and watch what happens, because things change. Things are changing.
Absolutely, yeah. So thank you so much, Monika, for all this wonderful information, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you in January in Longmont.
That'll be great.
2018. Yes.
Oh, and I forgot to say, I'm aiming to have the book published next year. Next year, maybe by October, November. So
okay, so we have to be patient. But as you said, everything will be in time. I really look forward to this, and I hope the translator will work very quickly to read it also in German. So thank you, Monika. Thank you so much. And
love and blessings. Namaste.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to get all the information directly from you. It's gorgeous. I like it. Thank you so much, Monika. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.